welcome in. So today I'd like to discuss becoming compassion. Now, how I came up with this is based on some theories and practices in lineage-based Buddhism, which is really the essence of most of what I do in this podcast on my YouTube and other channels. And I was reflecting the other day on the difference between acting out compassion and more like living from it. And that's where I came up with this idea or this, referencing it as becoming compassion or the practice of becoming compassion. So normally we frame compassion as an act, right? We might also refer to someone as a compassionate person, but we normally we refer to them as a compassionate person based on how they're acting. There's nothing wrong with that. I think obviously we have to be able to discern what compassion is and how to activate it, right? That's really important, that we affect others, that we affect the world with compassion and action. But at the same time, I was really reflecting on how for an individual, this doesn't always necessarily provide clear indications if genuine compassion is developing within one's heart and mind. So let me give you an example. Sometimes we might have the motivation to help someone in need, and we see the need, and maybe there genuinely is that need, or maybe there isn't. But sometimes we can get stuck in the approach that we want to feel good. We want to do something to feel good. We want to be compassionate. We want to help someone with something they're struggling with in order to feel better about ourselves. Now, still, again, this isn't bad necessarily. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, the Dalai Lama sometimes calls that like smart selfishness, like being selfish, but in a smart way. Because if the person really does need help with that and we help them, they don't care if our compassion is genuine or not. They get the benefit, right? And so in that sense, we can just kind of leave that aside for a moment and just, say that's fine. But now when we're talking about developing on an individual level, deeper levels of compassion so that our actions can actually be much more skillful in the long run, we have to look more at how our mind and heart is sitting within compassion. And we have to develop a little bit of a ruthless honesty with ourselves, right? So there's a wonderful quote I'd like to share here, which goes a little bit like this. We don't help because we want to help. We help because help is needed, right? And so the second part of this quote refers to what I want to discuss about becoming compassion, which is in order to discern where help is needed, we have to be highly attuned to ourselves and others. And a way we develop that attunement is through being honest with our motivations, getting to know our mind through meditation and awareness, and also understanding what compassion really feels like and what it means to become compassion, right? So I often say compassion starts on our side of the street, meaning it starts with our relationship to the contents of our inner life. It starts with our relationship to ourselves. Now, this is a bit tricky in Buddhism because we have this question, what and where is the self? And so I like to more frame this as a relationship to the contents of our experience or to the contents of what makes up what we think self is, right? So basically, I'm talking about how we relate to our form, like different kinds of experiences in our body, sensations, different perceptions we're having, as well as thoughts and emotions, right? And so these are our experiences. As I said, they're the contents of our experience, the contents of what make up, what we think of as self. And often we think of, we might hone in on one or several of these at a time and attribute that to self. That's another discussion. But either way, when we work on our side of the street with compassion, we're first really focusing on developing a compassionate approach to the contents of our experience. And so I have a lot of content on this. I really like to emphasize somatic-based compassion practices for this, meaning, practices where we meet things in our feeling world and we meet them with kindness and non-judgment. I have many different guided meditations on this if you want to check those out. A lot of them derive from my main teacher's practice on what's called the handshake practice. You can also search for that and find out from Sonny Rinpoche what he has to say about that. But either way, that's kind of one of the main ways I like to emphasize this development of working on our side of the street. And slowly, over time, we actually become compassionate towards ourselves. Becoming just meaning we start to live in a compassionate way with our emotions, with our thoughts, with our moods, with how we're relating to the different experiences within our sense perceptions, right? Sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, etc. So this doesn't mean that then we exclude external acts of compassion to others. It just means that while we're working to make those more genuine, we're working with ourselves. We're working with this non-judgmental approach to bearing witness to our experience, to offering tenderness and softening towards what's arising. But also there's a sense of warriorship in here. There's a sense of confidence we're developing to meet all of our life, right? So I'll just give you an example. If a friend or a family member is going through a really difficult time, and it's something very scary, like a medical issue, and we're afraid of that, our assistance and actually being skillful in helping them, it's not going to necessarily be as skillful as it could. So we first have to work with our own fear. We first have to work with our own dilemma, and I guess one could say like lack of confidence in how to relate to that kind of situation. And so if we build more confidence in how to relate to all of our life, including, deep dissatisfaction and deep kinds of pain and struggles we can go through, we're going to be able to meet others' struggles and pain with more compassion. And so maybe a definition of compassion would be useful here. There's many definitions, but in Buddhism, they usually revolve around something like, it's the aspiration for ourselves and others to be free from all kinds of suffering, right? And the causes of that suffering. So there's this deep well of empathy that comes, and then there's action. There's movement to relieve, right? But that movement to relieve pain for ourselves and others, that has to come with skillful means, that has to come with wisdom, that has to come with some ability to see more clearly what's actually going to benefit the need. So as I said earlier, there's a deep attunement that we need. I think a great example of this in the world is like a mother with their child. And there's a special quality that comes with that kind of relationship. And I think we can all bear witness to this, even if we're not able to be mothers like myself. We can see there's an intuition. There's a strong selflessness. Just all thoughts and concerns are on the child. And then there's the possibility of more skillful means because that mother is deeply attuned and highly intuitive with their child. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the case for all mothers, right? I don't want to make that generalization, but you know what I mean. We can see this, right? This is genuinely a kind of a relative truth. So anyways, so we can see that we can all actually develop that. That's not just something that needs to come with nature. That's something we can nurture and develop through compassion practice. So like I said, becoming compassion has to do not first like we ignore others. I just mean we need to spend some serious time working on compassion towards the contents of our own inner experience, not in a selfish way, not in a self-serving way, in a way where we're opening to all of our experience more and more. We're developing more confidence to be able to bear witness and be with all different kinds of experiences, including painful ones in our life. And this is going to give us the skillful means and the intuitive ability to bear witness to others and to act from compassion in order to help relieve the struggles they're going through. So ultimately, becoming compassion, in my view, this is not something that happens in a few months or even a few years. This is a lifetime of practice. And of course, we can meet people out there in the world who have a little bit more natural ability in this, and that's fine. That's great. We can take joy that they have more of that natural ability. And some of us need to grow it and build it more. And this is possible, right? Now, if you're not kind of sure of the benefits of compassion yet, I encourage you to go out and kind of read more about those. But I'll just say a couple of things here. Compassion is really one of the root qualities that brings meaning and joy into our life, right? We can see without compassion, we're not able to really relate properly to ourselves and others. We end up creating situations or supporting situations that might not only cause harm, but might just cause like discontentment and disease. So compassion and fostering compassion, and in this case, becoming compassion, is one of the surefire ways we can develop more well-being and contentment in our life. So that's okay to have that aspiration. That's not selfish, because we're also having compassion towards ourselves. We're included as a being in this world. And what that compassion means is, what's going to bring about genuine well-being, joy, and of course, on the Buddhist path, awakening and freedom. So for me, this is really one of the key reasons to develop compassion, that there is a way we can be. There's something we can cultivate and develop in our life and live from that place that not only brings us a lot of joy, but really benefits others and brings meaning to them and helps to make this world a better place. So there, to me, it's just pluses all over the place. There's no minuses. I guess the only minus is this is challenging for some of us, and it takes practice. It takes work to become compassion. Engaging in a compassionate act, we can all do that, and I also encourage that. Whether you've developed this, what I'm talking about, in a deep way or not, we should all help, right? But while we're helping, we can also be working on these deeper layers of becoming compassion. So just a few thoughts on this. As always, I'd love to hear from you. If you want to leave some comments, if you're watching on YouTube, if you would like to reach out to me, you can do that through my website at scotttusa.com. On there, I also have some courses on compassion if you want to learn a little bit more about what I'm talking about, as well as all kinds of practices and approaches for actually doing this. So, I hope this helped, and have a good one.